Welcome to the Marvel Cinematic University podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Canton III. And first of all, happy Thanksgiving, everybody, as we are in a holiday week. Happy to be here this evening to discuss our top 10 MCU scenes. Yes, we're going to get into that in a second. But first, patreon.com/MC University Pod, where you can get our bonus content, such as John Wick. We did the first installment with our pal Tej last week. Check that out. We're going to be doing all of the John Wick installments. Looking forward to it. Had a fun time talking about the original one. So you got that. We have what basically our Discord where you get like a lot of little nuggets. I dropped a little nugget about the Captain America Brave New World and some of the reactions to why they're doing so many reshoots in the past couple of weeks. And let's just say things are not going too well there. But yes, $3 for that. Get into our Discord. We have great conversations and things along those lines, and plus the bonus content that we do have. So in the meantime, and of course, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. When we get to 300 subscribers, I believe we are 23 away from that number. We will be doing a contest where we will give a ticket to said Captain America movie.
Yep. You know that movie we say looks like dog shit? You'll get a free ticket to it.
Yes, we're giving you the booby prize in that case. But yes, so let's start off first with the super producer Jake Christie. Jake, how are you?
I'm doing well. Happy it's a holiday week. I got my Happy Dad Hard Seltzer. Please sponsor me. I'm begging you. And I'm ready to talk about that. I love when we do these freeform ones that are not based on reacting to something. It's just like the whole MCU's up for grabs.
Yes, I think one of the things that I remember so much from doing the movie rankings one that we did was just how much fun that we had finding out our lists and going back and forth with everybody who submitted lists. So this is going to be a fun time as well.
We were very adversarial with people who submitted lists.
Yeah. Go check that out on YouTube. It's on the pod. Go back about a year. We did our MCU rankings. I'm sure we'll get to that at some point in a couple of years, and we'll get back to it. But we do have a guest with us, our pal, our friend. We leave the key under the mat, and he always comes back. Rod, aka the black guy who tips. Rod, how you doing, bro?
Hey, man. Thanks for having me, fellas. I'm glad to be here, and looking forward to reminiscing over MCU. You know, I'm the biggest MCU fanboy out here, so I'm just like, I love it all. So I felt honored that y'all picked me.
I think I think what you just said, Rod, is the biggest proponent of why I thought this would be a fun little exercise to go to the memories of these things, because we've spent a lot of time over the last 2 years being highly critical of the MCU when you forget at how popular, how successful, and honestly how good this franchise actually is.
Yeah,
and
you know, I'm here to remind everybody. That's my job in life. Is if people are gonna be critical, I feel like there needs to be some balance out there. That's not like that toxic balance, but like some positive balance. And so I feel like I'm always here to be like, okay, this sucks right now for you, okay, but remember the good stuff that was cool too, right? And sometimes it's good after we think it won't be good, and sometimes, you know, it's we think like, oh, that was the end, and then they pull something out, and you're like, okay, maybe I'm still in. So like, that's what I'm here for.
Right, exactly. And so for those who haven't tapped in online and are just listening fresh out the blue, so what we decided to do with this list is basically every MCU scene, and when it comes to something like Daredevil, for instance, we're not using any of the Netflix canon, but if you had any of his appearances, whether it was Spider-Man No Way Home, She-Hulk, or Echo, those were eligible. So
I think the best way, the way that I always describe it, just because I know people get up in arms about this, like if it is produced by Marvel Studios, it counts, and if it's not, it's not. Like that's kind of the way that, just because the moment you start including the Netflix stuff, then like does Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. count? And if Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. counts, to other like then it just and I'm not saying that to make fun of those things. It just it really I think it becomes a complete quagmire. So just things that are produced by Marvel Studios.
Exactly. And with that being said, let's start off with our list. So we did top 10. And Rod, we will start with you. What is your number 10
top
MCU scene?
My number 10 is, and we can use stuff from the Marvel TV shows, right? Like Disney Plus.
Yes.
Okay. It's Vision's What is Grief If Not Love Persevering. Because I don't know if it was because it was pandemic time and we had lost so many people,
Yeah.
I don't know what it was about this line. Also, it was like I think maybe even the first MCU show, so it's carrying a
Mm-hmm.
lot of weight on his shoulders. It was knocking it out of the park every week, but it coming at that time and being about like sadness is is just love that just won't die is like I was like, damn, that was a bar. I'm gonna remember that
Mm-hmm.
bar for the rest of my life. You get two great actors delivering it. You know, it's like Paul Bettany in this full body makeup and talking to Elizabeth Olsen, and it still bangs. I mean, I remember logging into Twitter later and it being like people had to clip on there like, look at this
Yeah.
Shakespearean cinema. So I have to put that
Mm-hmm.
as my number 10.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I think when you think about WandaVision and kind of the hold that it had on folks when it came out, and how we were kind of hanging on everything that was happening in that show week to week, you could forget because this is again, I had a very large cutting room floor
Mm-hmm.
list, and this was on that cutting room floor, and it's like this again is a reminder of how rich the
Mm-hmm.
MCU is, and not only its pool of acting talent,
Mm-hmm.
but just its pool of writing as far as these emotional scenes and how they go, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that being said, Jake, what is your number 10?
My number 10 is, I fired from the hip from this. I didn't spend a lot of time with, what was true to my heart. And it's a scene that you posted on Blue Sky and Twitter. And this is the truest of my heart. She-Hulk and Daredevil on on the roof of the lily pad. I love that
It's a
scene so
great
much.
scene. It's
It's,
a
it's,
great
it's, and
scene.
this would, I have a couple that are just because I'm a softie and I like scenes that are charming. But I think that I love that scene because it is the closest that the MCU has gotten to like real crackling romance. I mean, they've had other, but like it, and I feel like if they could tap into that more, like the use of superpowers, like the fact that Daredevil's like your heart's beating real fast, using his superpowers to flirt with her, like that is the platonic ideal of what I'm looking for in a superhero property. And I know that makes me not in the majority of people who watch superhero properties, but I love that scene, and I wanted to represent She-Hulk because, as everyone knows, I'm the world's biggest She-Hulk defender. So yeah, that's my number 10 scene.
I love I mean, I just think about that scene a lot. Just the what you said, Jake, and
Mm-hmm.
the chemistry between both Tatiana and Charlie, like they were just cooking on a level in that episode that
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was honestly you just could not believe in it. It's like I know I would love to see those two crazy kids get back together at some point. It
Yes,
would
it
just be so
also
great.
bangs because it's that show captured the essence of the vibe of a She-Hulk comic. You know, I know
Yeah.
a lot of people haven't read those, and that's fine, but they're very funny and they're kind of like all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And it is stuff like she'll clap Daredevil's cheeks and then
Mm-hmm.
clap Hercules cheeks a week later, and it's just like not a big deal, but also it's
Yeah.
always fun and flirty. And to see a Marvel show take that chance to do something like that with the character was like really dope because it's a very sexy sexless world other than like
Yes.
She-Hulk, and then like one scene in the Eternals, like pretty much no one's banging, but everyone has like 12-pack abs. And so it was cool to see some people acknowledge like, oh yeah, we're
Mm-hmm.
very hot people that want to have sex with each other.
Mm-hmm.
I am praying for my life that we get when Wonder Man comes out. We eventually get the Wonder Man Vision Wanda love triangle. Please bring that to
Mm.
me. I need it more than air. Just please, please, at some point. So yes, all right. So
Mm-hmm.
my number 10 is a scene that occurs at the end of Captain America: The First Avenger. Steve Rogers wakes up, man out of time.
Mm.
He's in some fake place set up by S.H.I.E.L.D. He realizes it. He runs out into the middle of Times Square. Nick Fury catches up to him. And obviously, this is a very shocking moment for Steve having gone through this. And then Nick Fury asks him, "Are you okay?" And then Cap goes, "I had a date." And that's how the movie ends. And
Mm-hmm.
that just, I remember seeing that. And if you think about it in retrospect, if you did not realize that this was going to foretell 8 years of storytelling for Steve Rogers.
Mhm.
Like through all of his individual movies and a lot of the Avengers stuff, there is that element of wanting to get back to that date.
Yeah.
And the fact that we get the moment in Endgame where he does, the man who would never run away from a fight finally put down the shield at the end of Endgame just so he could have his date. So I think that, thinking about that in retrospect, and the way that it told the entire story of Steve and sold it to us. And honestly, like at the time, it was just a legitimately sad moment. I felt bad for him
Yeah.
during that time when it
And I
happened. So
mean,
yeah,
it was so good. It gave us Haley Atwell as Peggy Carter as like much
Mhm.
whose star has only risen and gotten bigger and bigger in the
God
world.
bless. Yes.
But like they were relying on us to be like, yo, he really do need to get to this date. I mean, to the
Mhm.
point where we were in like end game. And it was
Mhm.
still a through line of this man's story of like, but is he gonna get the girl through all
Yeah.
impossibilities?
But I think the thing too is because she both is what he wants, but I think that on like a metaphorical level, he wants to get back there because he doesn't belong in this time. You know,
Yeah.
I think that like she represents, and I think that I think that's always funny to me about that scene is like he immediately accepts that he's like in the future, which is the thing I like to think I would do. I always hate in time travel movies where people like slip up and say the wrong thing. Like if I learned I was in 1955, I would make sure I would not make any references other than like the sock hopping. But um, I think that it just shows that he is at his core a romantic. That like what his the
Yeah.
first thing on his mind when he sees that he's in the future is I won't have this date, and that's why he's a lovable character. Like that is what makes
Yep.
him. That's why he was the right person to get the serum because he's not thinking about power. He's not thinking about his confusion. He's like, oh wow, whatever happened, I don't know what happened, but I know that Peggy was alone on that dance floor, and that's bad.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
And
Yeah,
honestly,
that's
just
yeah.
the idea that you can wake a white man up from that era and he sees Nick Fury and doesn't wake up and go, boy, give me a sandwich. That just then you knew you had the right white man. Like
Yes.
you found a needle in a haystack because like you could have said that in like 19 whatever and not even been racist. Like it would have just been like, what? That's what we call him. But he was like, no, this man is important and a human being and clearly in charge, and I
Mm-hmm.
need his help.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes. Oh man,
Mm-hmm.
what a scene for Steve Rogers. Now let's go to number 9. Rod, what is your number 9?
All right, number 9 on my list is Michael Keaton's Vulture reveal in
Hold that thought.
Spider-Man: Homecoming, which we will hold this thought for later.
Yes. Yep.
Oh,
That this means that someone has it later on, and by someone I mean me.
yes,
Got it.
that for me, I will just say cutting room floor. Just missed it. Just
Yeah.
missed it. But yes,
Well, I feel
Jake.
like
What?
I mean I have
Yeah.
honorable mentions and stuff too,
Yeah.
so
Oh, we
maybe
gonna get
talk
to
Yeah,
about
those
yeah,
at
those
the
at
yeah.
the
end.
end.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll say this. This is every scene in the MCU. If a scene is not
Yes.
on one of our lists that is not an insult, there's
No,
so
not
many
at
Yeah,
all.
reasons.
yeah,
It
yeah.
just should. Yeah.
Okay.
There's nothing I hate more than people like, oh, you didn't include it. It's like, yeah, it's because it's every scene in the MCU. My number
Yeah.
9, and this is my number 10 and 9 are both scenes that just make me feel warm inside. Number 9 is Peter and MJ on the bridge in Austria in Far From Home. I think it's just a beautiful, like, it's such an adorable scene. It's such a great scene when you like that feels when I talk about chemistry of actors, it's like, oh, this is just the fact that these two people are in love in real life. You can very much feel it. I think that there's something so innocent, and it captures the thing that I think that the MCU sometimes has struggles with because the MCU kind of struggles with alternate identity stuff because a lot of their characters are out with who they are. That the struggle of like the sincerity with which Peter says, "Was that the only reason you were watching me?" Like that is such a comic booky thing to me, where it's like, oh, he simultaneously is worried that she knows he's Spider-Man, but also wants her to like him, and he's trying to balance those two things. And then I love the turn of when he realizes what's going on. He says, "So, I am Spider-Man," which I think is just a great delivery. I'm a huge fan of that scene, and my TikTok feed keeps giving it to me, and I appreciate you, algorithm.
Hey, I think when it comes to Spider-Man in the MCU, you could make a top 10 MCU thing and have all of the Spider-Man movies and
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man moments in it, and just kind of, that could be your top 10, and
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
could not blame you, and I could not criticize you in any type of way, to be honest,
Mm-hmm.
because this character, Tom Holland, has brought so many moments. And I mean, this is an example of that. I mean, we talk about a movie where we're coming off of the death of Iron Man,
Mm-hmm.
and Peter Parker's trying to figure his things out, and also at the same time, he's not in America. He's dealing with this other thing with Nick Fury. Well, at least who we thought was Nick Fury at the time. And then, of course, the simplest story in the world. He's just trying to tell a girl that he likes her, and I think that's to the schmaltzy cornball side of Jake. I am with you, sir, on that one for sure.
I think also just speaking from a racial lens, I felt like Spider-Man: Homecoming was such a smart film because they kind of did what the NFL does with black quarterbacks, where they had like another backup, and so it's like his biracial crush that was the misleading crush, where everyone's like, "Who is she? MJ? Where's MJ? When is Mary Jane gonna show up? This is crazy." Then Zendaya's in the movie, and you're like, "She's hot. I guess she's the black best friend that's like super sassy." And they're like, at the end, she's like, "I'm MJ." And it's like, oh, I see what you did there. And no one could be mad because there's
So
no
you're
way to
saying that
racially take it.
so you're saying that that Laura Harrier is a Josh Johnson or Quinn Gray?
Exactly. Exactly. Thank God, right? Because if she would have been Jake Delhomme, we would have been arguing about Zendaya to this day being MJ. Like I really felt like it should have been such and such. Instead, we're
Honestly,
just like, no.
you're right. You're actually right.
Yeah,
There
I'm
definitely
not
feel like he
joking.
should have gone with her.
I think about this shit a lot.
Yeah. Uh,
Oh man.
EC, what's your
Yes,
number
yes.
9?
My number 9 is the post credit of the original Iron Man movie, the first movie in the MCU, where we get Nick Fury talking about I'm preparing the Avengers Initiative, and all I will do is just say, take me back to 2008 when I saw this movie for the first time. And you get, first of all, you get a stinger after the movie. When does that happen? You don't get that too
Yep.
often. Back in 2008, and then a Black Nick Fury on top of that, which
Yes.
is great, and it's Sam Jack of all people.
Mhm.
And then on top of that, once he says Avengers Initiative, what is this? Also, this is not just one of these one-off franchises that's just hoping for a sequel. There's a plan in place, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, oh my god, this is to my comic book heart. It spoke to me in such a way. If you get a chance, listeners or watchers, go back to the very first episode of Marvel Cinematic University, and you could hear me at the time sounding a lot younger. My palpable excitement for Nick Fury being for Nick Fury being in the MCU, and also having this preparation that we're going forward with this in a huge, tremendous way, and just the way that it cuts off after that just made me feel great. And still to this day, I always like going back to that end scene. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. All right. So
I mean, it is so well done, and I think that like it's it's great for the MCU. I don't know how good it's been for movies in general because now I have to sit through
Jesus.
credits. But yeah, I mean, it's such a special moment.
Dog, I sat
Yeah.
through 2 Venom post credits, and
I was
like,
literally about to bring that.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
What is? We are out of control. We are out of control. We must stop ourselves.
Yeah. I think the problem is the post credits. Like where it's just like the
Yes.
mid credits one, that's fine.
Yes.
Because it's only gonna
Yes.
take a couple minutes. But
Yes. Post credits
Post-
is egregious. It's egregious, guys.
I-
Stop.
yeah, especially because you know me. I gotta go pee like 20 minutes into the movie. And so now I'm sitting
Yeah.
there.
And nothing,
yes.
honestly, nothing makes me hate your movie more than one of them egregious post credit scenes that adds nothing for me. Like I can go from like being mad on a movie to having to wait 10 minutes for like a cockroach. Word. That's what we doing.
Yo, I remember, it's funny, for a movie that a lot of people really liked / loved, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I remember the reaction to the Peter Quill post-credit scene. And I think they was going for something, Peter Quill will return. And I just remember the reaction of folks like, why they show this? Well, I could have left. So that was just one of those examples right there. All right, so let's go to number 8. Rod, what is your number 8?
Number 8 is kind of me cheating because it's actually multiple scenes from a couple different movies, but I think they count.
Totally fine.
Louise montages from Ant-Man.
Salute to you.
That's my
Yes.
guy. And every time I was in the theater with people, it brought the house down. Like it was so funny. And it's all just those voiceovers of the different actors, and they all have to do like the mannerisms. Like it's just the Louise montages for me are just like, because a lot of times I feel like the comedy of the MCU gets a lot of shit because everyone's quirky and everyone has like a quip, but it's stuff like that when it's like this is a comedy and it's supposed to be funny. When they hit that out the park, that really nails it for me. And it's why to me, I don't like Ant-Man 3 or whatever, the one with Kang. I don't like it that much because it lost a lot of this stuff that
The heart.
really made it it lost the heart for me. Louise mattered.
And I think the reason why the Louis stuff holds up better than some other MCU comedy is because it's specific to that character. Like one of the problems with some MCU jokes, and I like a lot of them still, is that a lot of the quips could be said by anyone, and oftentimes characters that are not very quippy will say a quippy thing. Luis is the only character who would do those breakdowns, and it's specific to him. And I think that that's what makes it like so. It's so special. You're happy to listen to it because Luis is so excited about it.
Yes, you get excited. Like, oh no, let Matthew Finn let him tell us this part. We don't need it. Still serves. I mean, it's essentially the same thing you need a script to do, which is relay a lot of information in a short period of time to catch you up. But it just never feels like exposition. It just feels like fun.
Quantum Mania is going to be one of those things where you look back on it and you understand what they were trying to go for, but man, did they miss the mark in so many ways. It's just incredible. And that really meant that main thing. Yeah, and that main thing of not having the Ant-Man crew was just like that's what makes the Ant-Man vibe work.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's not supposed to be here. That's the whole thing. Is like he's not like that.
His friends are ex-cons. Like they're just dudes. Like
dudes,
like T.I. was in the crew. Okay, I don't know. I don't think he knows anything about. I don't know if he was gonna get cast in that third one though. But I don't think
so. No.
They would have found a reason not to have him. But still, we could have had Luis.
Yes.
Man. Yes, and Jake, what's your number?
My number 8 is the end scene in WandaVision episode 5, where the credits are about to roll and Vision keeps yelling at Wanda, and he talks about how he doesn't remember anything and like where are the kids. I think that because I want something from WandaVision, and I think that this scene is what stands out to me from it's the best example to me about the breaking of the form, because like it's such an audacious thing to do to have the credits stop and to have a character acknowledge what's going on. Like I think that that's always a super powerful thing, is like when you can have a thing like a reality that's kind of like on an edge, and then have a character just be like, seriously, what the fuck is going on? And I think Paul Bettany nails it. I think that because it's simultaneously like that you believe that he doesn't understand really what's going on, but he knows that something's wrong. And I think that's such a hard thing to play, because he's not in a real situation. This is not a thing that could happen to a real person, and I think that just his insistence, I think the way that Elizabeth Olsen plays it is great, because you really are not sure how much she knows what she's doing. Like I don't read it as if she's lying. I think I read it as she doesn't really understand what she's doing. And I think that I don't know. I think it's just a wonder. And the bit with the credits is just as a fan of TV and as a fan of breaking the form, that's a shit that I've wanted to see someone do forever. I mean, I didn't know I wanted to see someone do it, but afterwards I'm like, wow, I've wanted to see someone do that forever.
Yeah, Vision literally says that he's scared in the this is a synthezoid. This is a android person who has completely lost their emotional grip on things, because legitimately. And at that point it had been building up through the episodes. It's like you go back to the first episode and the stuff that happened with Deborah Jo Rupp's character and all that stuff, and how it kept going and going and going, and then we reached a crescendo where he's like, all right, this is enough, I gotta say something. And to Jake's point, as far as the credits stopping, or the credits keeping on rolling, as he's like, wait a minute, enough of this. That was so fascinating, and then yet it leads to the shock at the end where we get Evan Peters, and that was a cool reveal too. So that episode 5 of WandaVision, that show was operating at all cylinders at that point.
Also, that the line about the children is so chilling. Like it's a thing you never get. Like, where are the kids? You know what I mean? Like that is like I remember that stopped me in my tracks. I'm like, wait, yeah, there are no kids. Like, what is she doing to the children?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was a great scene. That's a great choice right there. Number 8 for me. Let's go to Captain America: Civil War. Not the only Civil War scene I have on this list. I'm going to T'Challa and Zemo towards the end in the midst of the Tony Steve fight. And for me, I've always felt when it came to Black Panther's introduction, as we see the Avengers kind of lose their shit and they kind of lose their equilibrium and everything's off. People hate each other. There's a lot of hurt people, and things along those lines. You have Black Panther, you have T'Challa who lost his dad and carried around this anger throughout the movie and trying to kill Bucky. And then when he realizes it was Zemo, he has a choice that he can make in terms of how he wants to go about it. And in the midst of all that fighting, he has the hero moment, which is such a great thing for the character in terms of just these two are going back and forth, and the way that Zemo talked about his family, and it's like, yeah, the Avengers got to go home, and there's kind of like this real sort of understanding to a degree, but then also T'Challa also realizing I can be better than this. I don't have to resort to this level of violence. I don't have to kill this dude. And they're ripping each other apart, as he says. And he goes, "Justice will soon come enough." And I just love that final line that T'Challa says, "A salute to Chadwick Boseman, rest in peace," where he goes, "The living aren't done with you yet." And that was just like a nice way to close that thing. So yes, that was my number 8. I just love that moment and everything that kind of led up to that moment and how it played out in a wonderful thing, and set up T'Challa for his own movie and the choices that he would make in that one too. So yes,
The entire
that is my
arc,
number 8.
the entire arc of T'Challa as a character in that movie is done so seamlessly because
Yes.
that's not his movie. That's not even a
Nope.
movie that's ever really even concerned with Black Panther on paper. Like, there's no reason to insert an origin story essentially in this movie. And then,
They inserted 2.
right, and then took him from like anti-hero to full-blown hero by the end so that you can just seamlessly transfer right into Black Panther, and there's just you have no work you need to do to establish that character anymore. It's amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, I love that scene, and yes, I will be revisiting Civil War later in the show. So for number seven, Rod, what do you got?
Scarlet Witch dismantling the Illuminati and then chasing after Doctor Strange like a fucking horror movie is my
Mm-hmm.
number 7. Is
Mm,
one of my
that's a
favorite
nice one.
scenes of all time. I understand the Scarlet Witch truthers, the ones that hate this movie. I get it. I'm not gonna argue with you, but for me, it worked. And the most important thing is it felt like Sam Raimi did it, which is just
Mm,
something, a critique that I don't feel is always proven when people say it against Marvel. Like sometimes it can feel a little cookie cutter, and then sometimes you're like, no, they let him cook. Like this, at this point, this is a Sam Raimi movie. And so that's one of my favorite scenes ever.
God, I love that scene. It's an honorable mention for me. It was one of the ones I did have a master list. It's not like I just completely fired from there, but it was. I think that the thing about it too is like I liked it because it used the audience's expectations against them, and that the whole thing was like we're gonna have cameos, we're gonna have all these characters from different universes, and the thing I appreciate is I know damn well that Sam Raimi, a man in his 60s who has been making movies since the 80s before multiverses were ever a thing, does not give a shit about cool cameos. And so he's like,
Yes.
I'm going to use the audience's expectation to demonstrate how crazy powerful this person is. And I really like, and I think that what they're able to get away with in like a PG-13 context is really kind of crazy. Um, and like, yeah, it just like, it was so shocking the first time, but then anytime I rewatch it, I'm like, hell yeah. Like it feels the same way that like Ash killing, the Deadites in Evil Dead feels. It's like, yeah, beat the shit out of it. Like you're pumping your fist.
and the stunt casting of it was so good because it's such a like we understand our audience to a T. We know there's nerds out here who've been like, this is who's gonna play Reed Richards. This is and in my theater, I don't know about y'all's, but in
Yeah.
my theater, they clapped when the stunt cast people came out. Like they were
Yeah.
not
Oh,
aware
absolutely.
of what was about to go down. Meanwhile, my nerd ass is in there like, you don't cast people this big to because they're gonna be these people later. Like it's like my brain went to like they're not introducing all this to the MCU, but as it happened, my brain also said, Rod, this is just you being very hopeful and wanting chaos. You want to see her kill these people and everyone lose their fucking minds. And that never happens because no actors don't sign up to do things that are cool like that. And wrong. They all signed up to get beat down, and I loved it.
My honest thought was when I saw John Krasinski show up, my honest thought was I really hope he gets killed because he can't be Mr. Fantastic.
Yes.
Like, that was my honest thought.
Yes. Oh,
beautiful. You know, the thing about it for me is that the kills were brutal. They were brutal kills.
Mm-hmm.
The shit that happened to Black Bolt, my God. She popped goes the weasel, Mr. Fantastic.
Dog.
My goodness gracious.
Dog.
She sent that shield spinning right through Peggy.
And I have been like, I was one of these people that after Endgame where I'm like, dog, I don't think I'm tripping. I'm pretty sure Wanda's the most powerful person in the crew. And I'm like, she had Thanos in a chokehold. Okay, if you've ever seen I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, either y'all ever seen that movie? Anyway,
yeah.
Okay, if you seen I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, she had Thanos the way that man, this is such a black ass reference. I'm sorry if we lose a few people for this one. Okay,
on behalf of the white contingent, it's fine.
Okay, all right. Jaleesa or Dawn from why can't I remember the name of it? Different World. From a Different World, she slams Damon Wayans' character up against a wall. He's supposed to be like this pimp who's like, listen, bitch, you better do it. And she slams him up against the wall because she's on her period. And she's so angry it's giving her superpowers. And they film it like it's The Exorcist. Like wind is blowing, her eyes change colors, and she's choking him to death. And he's like, get this bitch from me! And then like my man Dwayne Wade, Kadeem Hardison comes around the corner and he's like, hey man, you okay? He was like, you ain't hear me calling for you? He was like, yeah, you were screaming like a bitch. He was like, yeah, get this bitch over me. He's like, oh, I was like, get this bitch over me. And that is how she had Thanos. When she had called like the fury upon him when he was like, I don't even know who you are. She's like, oh, you gonna remember this, homeboy. She had him going,
Thanos turned into a Karen.
It was amazing.
Thanos turned into a Karen. He was calling for the cops right there. He's like, he had enough. He had enough.
One of them ones, man.
One of them was for sure. Okay, and Jake, what you got?
So I gotta throw it back. I honestly, I want to have some variety in here because, truth be told, I really could just have done this with just like 3 or 4 movies. But I want to go back to a scene that I think really defined so much of the MCU and is so pulled off so well that it's like, oh, they're cooking with something here. The first action scene where Iron Man escapes the cave in Iron Man 1. Not one of the, because I think honestly, I think the ending action sequence in Iron Man kind of don't hold up as well. Like the fight with Ironmonger is not on par, but the way that when you see him come out, and I think that I actually wish the MCU got back to, it's almost filmed like verite, like it's filmed like it is like a documentary being filmed of a war. You know, it's off from the ground with shaky cam. You only don't. I think that is such a cool scene. I think that the emotional beat with the incident is great before then, and I think that like I don't know. I just wanted to have like this is where people are like, where did the MCU start? Whatever. Like, did it start with I Am Iron Man? But I think like the audaciousness of that sequence and how good it looked, like how, because that's all CGI. Like that's it's even though it's metal, I think people could sometimes think like, oh, this is just suit. Like, no, that's all CGI. And think about how much better that looks than CGI from superhero movies in like 2006. You know what I mean? Like, it was kind of the fact that they could pull that scene off is like, oh, the MCU could do something. If you can make CGI look this good and natural, I don't know. I felt like I needed to give something for Iron Man, and I'm not you. So like the Avengers Initiative thing is like that's pretty cool, but like I don't know, I just love the beginning Iron Man where he's in the cave. That stuff just I think holds up so well.
And it
Well, I mean,
gives
he did it.
it
He did it with a box of scraps, you know.
exactly.
Johnny!
It gave us that perfect line later on in the film that is reiterated to this day. But the other thing too was the patience in that film.
Mhm.
Because I feel like a lesser film is just rushing to get him in that
Yes.
Iron Man armor we all
Yes.
know, and he's just flying around doing adventures. And they made us earn it, and they made the character earn it in that cave because you feel like you're in that cave with him for a long fucking time.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more. Like, I think sometimes, especially with your first installment of a movie, it's very easy to just be like, we're gonna rush into something. But to be able to take the time, him developing the relationship with Yinsen, and that meaning something at the end for him to get out, and leading up to that moment, that is the type of stuff, that's the building blocks that you can build not only a movie around but a franchise around once you tell a story like that. So yeah, I like that. I like that very much. So for me, number 7,
Your laundry's
number
done.
6. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. The dryer just ended. It's so funny. I've been waiting for that thing so long so I can hit the mute button, but I guess
I'm kidding.
it
I'm
got me
kidding.
in the
Sorry.
middle, so.
I thought that's always funny to point out. Sorry, Will.
He's in a
Yes,
cave with a
so-
box of scraps, guys.
Exactly.
Pretty much. So yes, my number 7, the Thor Ragnarok. When Hela goes to Thor, what are you the god of again? Into the needle drop, into what I've always said is Thor's version of MJ's 55 in the garden when he's beating the fuck out of everybody. And we got the music playing in the background. We got Hulk involved. We got Valkyrie. We got Loki getting some action too. That scene is just mwah, chef's kiss. I love that scene. That's one of my favorites. Yes.
Yeah, it is really. I think it's great in a lot of ways, but I really do think it is a testament to how using contemporary music can add energy to a scene. Like it really, and I say contemporary meaning like not score. I think it, and especially with this callback because it starts off with that song, "Immigrant Song" by Led Zeppelin, and it brings you back to that beginning bit, and you're like, oh. Basically, what you realize is like, oh, I've seen Thor with a hand behind his back the whole time. Like this is what he actually is like. This is like you said, MJ 55 at the Garden. I don't know why you had to do that. We're both Knicks fans. I don't know why you had to bring that up, but
I mean, with respect, like it's, at the end of the day, I mean that happened when I was what, like 7, 8 years old. So with respect to MJ.
Plus,
and all
like
that, but
Kobe's 81 in Toronto don't hit the same as saying that something happened in the garden.
It happened in the garden, right?
Yeah.
Right? Yes. Yes, for sure. But yeah, Thor Ragnarok, shout out to that movie. Shout out to that movie always being good for some good laughs and some good action at the same time.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah, it's probably still my favorite MCU movie, but I don't have any scenes from it on here. So that's the interesting thing about this exercise.
Oh,
anyway,
interesting. Yes. So now we are going to number 6. Rod, what is your number 6?
Obviously, Terrence Howard saying "next time, baby" at the end. No, I'm just kidding. Guys. My number 6 is my number 6 is the Black Order fights in Infinity War. And if I have to be specific and pick just one, because both of them, like there's a bunch of them, but both of the ones I'm thinking about are hella cool. Tony Stark going full Tony Stark with Doctor Strange, where he is like, New York is closed today or whatever. And you're just like, oh, Robert Downey Jr., you can do this forever. But the one that's the like iconic for me is the joint that's almost in grayscale, where Captain America is the one who shows up. And it's when the train goes by and you see like his silhouette, and then it's him behind the train. And like everyone in this scene basically has cosmic superpowers. And Buddy just showing up with a shield, the super serum, and the justice of righteousness in his beard. Like, I got you, and I believed it. Like, as soon as I saw him, I said, they're saved. I just saw a person telekinetically, like, destroy Vision, and I'm like, nah, Steve got this one. And it juices me up every single time I see this scene. So that's it.
And just a use of callbacks with score at when you see in front of the shadows, what do you hear?
Yes.
Yes.
Just, I mean,
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Yo,
goosebumps.
Infinity. That's why, to me, I've always said Infinity War is my favorite MCU movie ever.
Mhm,
It just has everything you could think of.
Yes.
mhm,
And you
Yes.
always have to think of, in terms of my respect for it, is the balancing act that it had to do in taking all of these characters. And shout out to the Russo brothers and the writers for being able to split up these characters into certain teams that all worked and
Yes.
all fit together, whether it was comedically or thematically. All of these teams were interesting and fun, and then you had Thanos orbiting around it the
Yes.
entire time. It was just such a it kind of is scary how well they pulled that movie off, to me
mhm.
personally,
Everyone
because I can
understood
always
the
go back to it.
assignment, including the actors. Cause like
Yes.
the other thing I think about in that film is like actors that were having like 2.5 hour films to get these characters
Mhm,
beats. Now you suddenly have about 5 to 10 minutes of screen
mhm,
time total in this movie. And you got to make me be like, Clint and Nat are brother and sister. Like
yeah,
you got about 4 minutes to show me like through various quips, lines, and whatever's, and they
mhm,
did it. Every single character brought it.
yeah. Yeah. And I think that I think I talk about it all the time is like I don't think it'd be overstated how important it was that the MCU was started with a star who had no ego because he was down and out. Like it's one thing to try to get over in 4 minutes what your character's feeling. It's another thing to try to convince an A-lister, hey, you're only gonna get 4 minutes in this movie. Like
Yes, it's
and
it's
and and
it's
yeah.
it's David Robinson. It's David
Mm-hmm.
Robinson
Mm-hmm.
allowing Pop to coach him in a way that was aggressive enough that Tim Duncan can't say he can't
Yep.
have an ego. Sean Elliott
Mm-hmm.
can never raise his voice. If you motherfucking David Robinson and he's like,
Hmm.
yes, sir, I'll get out there and get those boards. Everyone got to get out there and get them boards. And that's what Robert
Mm-hmm.
Downey Jr. was for the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Exactly. And
100%.
Thor entering Wakanda is the Memorial Day miracle. But anyway, my number six.
Oh, great call.
My
Good
number
job by
six
you.
Love it.
is in the season one finale of Loki, the whole conversation between Loki, Sylvie, and He Who Remains.
Oh, man.
I mean, obviously it's loaded now because of Jonathan Majors, but let's put that aside for a second.
Yes, no,
Yes.
please do.
The man was cooking. I mean, it's once again all the baggage aside, but we remember what it was like watching that. You're like, oh my
Yes.
god, this is the
Yes.
best performance I've ever seen in the MCU. Like, what this guy is jumping off the screen. Tom Hiddleston and Sofia Di Martino are great actors, and they're getting blown off of the
Off the
frame.
screen. It was
Yes.
kind of,
It's
yeah.
it is unbelievable. It's
Yes.
and it just like truly because this is a big franchise. This is movies that are made for millions and billions of people. There's formula to some of it. It's one of the few times in the MCU I had no fucking clue anything was going. Is he gonna die? What does it mean that they're there? Has this happened a million times before? Like, what is going on? And both the way that Majors performs it and the way it's written, like you're so uneasy. And then when the conclusion finally comes down to Loki realizing that he has to live and Sylvie wanting to kill him, you're like, of course, that is what. Because the reason why it's so good is because like these motivations didn't come out of nowhere. This was the central divide between the characters the whole time, and it kind of was tabled because they had a shared goal. But when push comes to shove, Loki has been rehabilitated in such a way that he is able to see the bigger picture, and Sylvie is not. And I think that like those differences, given that they're variants, given the fact that like the main difference between the two of them is that Sylvie grew up on her own and Loki understands the value of other people because even though he is reluctant to admit it, that like the fact is like it has to end this way. Of course it's gonna end with Loki trying to make a utilitarian decision and Sylvie trying to get her revenge. And so the fact that on top of the great performance, the fact that it's like this is the show. This is the show we just watched. It's this whole disagreement. And then the see you soon bit, you're like, what does that mean? What does that mean? And it turns out what it meant is that he was going to get his ass packed up by Paul Rudd. But before we knew that, it was great.
You know, you laid that out so perfectly, and I think one thing that I did not too long ago was you pair that scene, and then you go to the end of season 2 of Loki and watch Loki's conversation with him then
Mhm.
too.
Mhm.
Those are two like incredible. Like if you told me you wanted to say that was your best scene in the MCU,
Yeah.
that was the best.
Yeah.
It was the best in terms of acting,
Yeah.
in terms of what the story is,
Mhm.
and what it provides for that story, I could not argue with you because those conversations, both of them, played was so purposeful,
Mhm.
so intelligent, and so had so many different types of meanings that. And then you mentioned the aspect, and then it kind of gets flipped in season 2 with Hiddleston as Loki. Now it's like I got to go on the offensive with this, and I
Yeah.
got to take over here too. So I love to put those two together because it's like, wow, you really think about it, and then you just think like, yo, this dude really just fucked up everything, man.
Yeah.
Like he really fucked it up.
It's,
Very unfortunate.
yeah, it's unfortunate, but we have that scene. That scene
But
is in
yes, we
Amber.
do. We do.
It exists. No one can take it from us.
It's so powerful. I
But-
know many a person that has like tried to work themselves out of the Jonathan Majors thing. You know, where they're like, I don't know,
Mhm.
man. Like, I mean, like, we don't know what happened in that car. I'm like, it was on tape, but
Mhm.
still, that like,
But-
that's how
And it's
powerful
like-
it was.
It's like, and could they find a single person who's ever met him who could say a nice thing about him? No, still no. There's still not a single person. Not yet. Okay. At multiple stages of his life, he's a manipulative sociopath. Say the people who know him best. That's strange.
Right. But
Oh
Megan
my
Good
God.
said yes. Okay, so
Yeah.
role of a
Your-
lifetime.
Your bit on that is one of the best things that's ever been on this podcast.
Oh man. Just so many callbacks. I love that this show has so many callbacks to these ridiculous moments that happen in real
Mhm.
life. Oh my gosh.
AC,
So
give
my
us your number 6,
yes.
man. I feel like you're always
Yep.
asking us. Give us your number
Uh-huh.
6.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, my number 6 is from Spider-Man No Way Home.
Mm-hmm.
And Peter just lost his aunt.
Mm-hmm.
And he is alone on the top of a
Mhm.
roof. Both MJ and Ned come to his comfort and his care, and then we get Toby and we get Andrew showing up, and we have the 3 Spider-Men meeting for the first
Mhm.
time. And you could remember going back and watching that movie and the Aunt May scene, tears,
Mm-hmm.
straight up crying, folks crying in the goddamn theater.
Uh-huh.
And then on top of that, we're gonna do this. So we're gonna do this, and we're gonna get the power and responsibility thing. We're gonna get Andrew talking about what happened with him and Gwen. So you take it back, and then on top of that, with all of this emotion going on, you realize the historical aspect of this is 20 years of Spider-Man canon on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like after all of the rumors, after all of the time you waited to see what would happen with this movie, you have the 3 Peters on the screen, and it was everything. It was everything to this comic book fan right here.
Yes.
So for them to have that conversation and everything going on was such a incredible moment.
Had my dumbass crying in front of my dad. Just a real low moment for me. No, that did happen. I don't think he was looking at me, but I definitely was crying, and I definitely was with my parents at the time because it was right before Christmas. Anyway, the thing about that scene that always gets me, and I've sung the praise of Andrew Garfield's performance in the movie a million times. I think it's unequivocally a top 5 performance in an MCU movie ever. And I think the thing about that scene that gets me so much is that like Toby kind of talks about how he's worked through it and all that. And I love that they make the choice to make Andrew's Spider-Man not really him. Like he's still like he actually kind of lost. That he's like the place he's coming from is like I let the anger consume me, and that is like so much more powerful to me. Instead of just like I was there too, I lost and I worked through it. It's like no, like I think you need both. You need someone to say you can work through it. You need someone to be like, what is it like? I stopped pulling my punches. And like the shame that he has when he says that, he doesn't need to say like I'm so ashamed about it. Like he just conveys it, and shit, man, like that movie is really a miracle because it so easily could be a gimmick. And I think to some people it is a gimmick, but to those people, they're not listening to this podcast. Because I'm someone, if it was a gimmick, if it turned out just to be a gimmick, I'd be like, oh, that was a gimmick. Yep. But it was not. It felt like it was earned. It felt so good. And that scene, I think, is like the piece de resistance of that whole experiment.
Man, yes. And the real cost that we have to pay is not, was it a gimmick or was it the real cost for that is Morbius 2 and Madam Web and Kraven the Hunter, because Sony's greedy ass is like, well, if Marvel can just come in and fix our shit, then we should just keep making shit, and maybe one day Kevin Feige will smile on us and make it mean something in a movie that actually is good compared to some of this bullshit we keep putting out. So we paid enough, guys. Let us enjoy something that actually was genuinely good.
I'm glad that you're joking about Morbius too, because there was a time they would have made that. And
Bro,
because
we
I'm
don't
me,
know that
I
they
would have
won't.
seen it.
We don't know that they won't. And I would see it too because I have the addiction too. I have to see it
Yeah.
all.
Like
But Jake,
I'm
I
seeing
have never
Craven.
seen. I've
Jake,
never
I'm
seen
seeing
Morbius.
Craven too. And watch
Yeah.
if Morbius show up in the post credits. I can only be mad at myself because I'm like, of course.
I'm so mad about Craven too, and Craven as well, because like Craven is directed by like a real capital R, capital D real director. Like it's the guy
I
who did
know.
Margin Call and Triple Frontier. Like, and I'm like, so part of me is like, it could be good. And the thing is, it's not gonna be good. I know it won't.
Right,
But I'm like, they have
right.
a real director.
But we're honestly at the point now where the worst thing that can happen is one
Yeah.
of them be good. Like
Yeah,
we've gotten that
yes, that'd be a
far.
problem.
Like
That would be a
we
problem.
need them to stay bad now so that people are
Yeah.
like, that is a bad idea. We should just leave that alone.
Yeah.
We're pretending that didn't happen. One of these movies, if I walk out and I'm actually like, damn, they did it. I'm right back in. I'm right back in.
Yeah. You're absolutely right, Rod.
Okay.
You're right. I'm glad you said it.
Yeah.
I appreciate your optimism on that. Like as far as it's just so funny. I remember Michael Keaton was doing an interview for Morbius, and he was just like, I just showed up and we was there. And the crazy thing about that Morbius thing, even though I've never seen the movie, I just know what happened with the post credit scene and him showing up. It was supposed to be because he was supposed to be in Spider-Man No Way Home, but then that shit happened with him and John Watts, and then he was taken out the movie, and then just a whole bunch of
Wait,
shit
what
happened.
happened with him and John Watts? I don't know this story.
Oh, that's right. You've never heard the story. Okay, so from people who would be in the know from that movie, who have told us off the record, apparently he had a big problem with John Watts. They had a disagreement about something, and it turned into something so bad that he left the movie, and it blew up the third act.
Oh,
And
shit.
quite honestly, we would not have probably gotten the Three Peters moment if it weren't for Michael Keaton. So in a way,
Damn.
that situation blowing up allowed us to get what we got in No Way Home. So we are grateful for that, but it is crazy that it took that situation to get into that. And if you go into some of the interviews, which I've done in retrospect, like on the movie, like Holland will talk about there needed to be changes on the script. There need to be changes on the script, and it's like, what are you kind of? They're throwaway lines, but
Mhm.
in now that you go
Mm.
back and you're like, oh, so this is what happened.
Shit,
So
I did
yes,
not know that.
it's a real true thing. People who worked on that movie did tell us this.
Mm. All right.
It really, the thing I always come back to is you really got to wonder what the conflict was that they sided with John Watts, who's like a completely anonymous and replaceable director. That's my only thought of it. Like I just
John Watts kind of showing a little power recently.
Yeah, shout out to what John Watts, even though Wolves is not a good movie, shout out to what he did where he decided not to do a sequel because Apple screwed him out of a theatrical release. Shouts to someone in Hollywood having a backbone. I appreciate that genuinely.
Respect.
Yeah.
Not a lot of work out there. I'll do my number 5.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
The High Evolutionary with Rocket in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. These motherfuckers make me cry, and I know that guy was just somewhere in a silly suit talking to a tennis ball. But between Bradley Cooper's voice work, the amazing CGI that made it look like he was really holding like a humanistic rodent, and then it was the way he was acting, and I know it's a brother, but he sounds like such a cold-blooded slave owner. Like in that, like it's like something out of 12 Years a Slave with Lupita Nyong'o and Michael Fassbender. How he's talking to this tennis ball, but he's talking to this sentient being that we've watched like befriend other, like it's just I couldn't believe they could still make me do that. That was not too long ago. This is after everyone's like, It's over. They lost their fastball. What are we even watching these movies for? The third one, who cares? He's leaving. It's not even gonna, and I was in here bawling.
I was yep.
Yeah, didn't realize how emotional that movie would make me feel. Yeah.
There's a second consecutive scene that the first time I saw it in theaters was not, but I watched it over like last Christmas with my dad, and I definitely also had to stop myself from crying in front of my dad again.
Yep.
I think that one he actually noticed. I was like, and he's like, he kind of gave me like a come on. But you know what? Whose fault is that? Whose fault is that? You could have forced me to keep playing sports after 5th grade, Dad.
Right.
If you didn't
Sorry,
want me to
you
be
raised
that
a
way.
3-dimensional, sensitive, well-rounded man.
Exactly. Also, he's like, you're the one fucking watching Marvel movies with me, so you know. Anyway, so AC, any thoughts about it before I cut you off with my dumb anecdote?
No, I mean, honestly, like if you think about Guardians 3, it's really such a gem. Just so many moments. That torture, like that was some rough stuff to watch. It was very tough throughout. So you kind of see Rocket at the end where he's like, "Nah, we got to leave with all these creatures. We gotta get them out." And what happened to Teefs and Flora?
Oh my god!
And Lila.
Oh yeah, Rocket in the afterlife going to meet Lila, wanting to go with her. Like, dog, like that hit right there. So yeah, for sure.
And I was not expecting that from any of the like promo for the movie or anything. I was expecting, in my mind, I'm like, oh, it's gonna probably be like some Gamora, Quill, like romance type. Nothing's wrong with that, but like, oh, they don't know each other and what it is. No, man, I'm in there crying.
So underrated how they handled that. I think they did such a great job with the Peter.
That could have been so creepy and cringe and weird, and they figured a way out to still give every character their and what do you call it? And anyway,
what do you say? Like a justified ending?
Yeah, well, I was gonna say like their own
or closure.
Yeah, not even closure, but it was like agency. That's what I was gonna say. They still have their own like agency, like because oftentimes just like we don't know what to do with. There's a woman and a man on screen, and like romance, but not romance. How do we like? Then it was like, nah, that made sense. It still felt core to the characters, felt very heartwarming, and and it made me think of why I love this universe.
Oh yeah, so much for sure. And Jake, what is your?
So this feels like perfunctory. I have to have it on here. Just it's not the whole the whole scene is a bit big, so I don't want to pick it. But I just don't think there's anything more iconic in the MCU than the panorama shot around them in the Battle of New York. I think it's just one of like hold that thought.
No. I had it on my list and moved it down because I was hoping one of y'all would.
Yeah, I think it's just like. Just from a feat of visual storytelling, the thing that the MCU I think doesn't do nearly enough is have the characters use their powers together, and there's just something so great about them all working in concert, and as the music swells, and it's like the enemy doesn't really matter. They're the faceless Chitauri, yada yada. It's like these are Earth's smartest heroes coming together, working together. It's a thing that's never really been in movies before, and I think that we take it for granted now. But it's like these are characters that all came from their own movies, and they're all coming together and they're fighting on screen. And yeah, man, it just was. It's so cool. It's also like a beautiful shot. Like it's super well composed. It's super colorful. Like Joss Whedon has his issues, but he nailed it on that shot.
Well, I mean, without this, it's kind of the building blocks of everything that came after it. I mean, in terms of Civil War and Infinity War and leading up to it, you had to have the Avengers be effective and work, and boy, did it! It worked in such a wonderful way.
Especially when you're doing like the cliche, they need to come together. They're not gonna be able to win. Like we've seen this a million times it's in every sports movie and stuff, but when they come together and you get that moment of like, oh, and that's why they need to come together. Like that's how that joint felt. Like and yeah, even earlier in that fight, I think there's a part where like Iron Man shoots Cap's shield or something. And you're just like, yes, this is what we all want to see, man. They just knew. Joss Whedon knew that shit, man. He killed that.
Yeah. Yo, shout out to the original Avengers movie. I mean, you think of at that point, you're building up, you have all of these individual characters' movies, and it's like you just wonder, how is this going to go? This is their
Yeah.
this is their moment. Is it gonna just be a complete misfire? But no,
And
it's just the opposite.
the balls on Kevin Feige and Marvel to think to themselves like,
Mhm.
oh, this isn't the culmination of something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
they were like, yeah, we got some bigger plans for this down the road. Because like
Mhm.
right then, you could have stopped and been like, mission accomplished, $1 billion movie. We strung together more movies than anyone's ever seen with a bunch of different characters. No one else could. There's somewhere in the room like, all right, so then Age of Ultron, but then we get the Infinity War. I'm like, the minds on you guys.
Yeah, man.
Jeez, that's a lot. So yeah, Jake, good call on you for that. My number 5 is the entire highway scene in Captain America: Winter Soldier.
Hold that thought, my friend.
Oh, okay,
Mm.
wonderful. Oh, I can't wait to talk about it.
Hold
Yes,
that thought.
Ooh, boy.
Love to see a good
All right,
hold that thought.
so Rod, I will throw it to you
Well,
for
I'll stick to
number.
Civil War.
Mm.
Okay.
The Civil War airport fight.
Civil War
Um,
airport fart.
fight. Well, the fart too.
Okay.
That was funny. When Ant-Man, not. But the airport fight was so good. And it gave us so many characters interacting with each other. And like, obviously Peter like fighting Falcon and damn near apologizing during it. And like that honestly for Spider-Man was to me better than Homecoming because his performance in that film feels like Spider-Man. Like he's quipping, he's a
Yeah.
menace to try to stop. He's not trying to kill anyone. He's kind of in over his head. That like cuz in your own movie, it's your movie. To take him and be like, "Can you make this work in the MCU?" is a little bit different than like oh, can we put Robert Downey Jr. in the movie with it and make it? Of course, we can make that shit work. When it's just like, oh no, you're gonna be saying something to Clint Barton, and then you're gonna say something to Sam, and then Captain America's gonna talk about how you're both are from Brooklyn. Like that shit was just not. He was knocking out the park. And then one of my favorite lines of all time is just, I'm Hawkeye or whatever. He's like, I don't care or whatever. It's just
So,
like,
we asked for fans to submit top 10s, and we'll run through them. Honestly, I think we'll do that before honorable mentions, just because so many of them are down here. But Yeti Blanc, associated with Greg Cody and the Libertar Show, he put as his number 3 T'Challa to Clint. I don't care. Sui Award for best dismissal.
Yes. Yes.
Good call. Good call, Yeti.
So yeah,
Oh,
perfect
man,
scene,
great.
man. We get giant Ant-Man, like just perfect. That felt like a comic
Star
book.
Wars bit.
Yes, it
Oh,
felt like a
yeah.
comic book, man. Like that's what we got into this for, is to see some shit that you would only see on a drawn page, and it felt like we got to do that.
Yep.
Oh man, so many great moments. But yes, Jake, how about you? What you got?
So this is a scene I don't think people necessarily would immediately think of, but I think I wanted something for the Guardians, and I feel like this is the perfect Guardian scene. The prison escape scene in Guardians 1. I think is such a. I mean, the bit with the leg is one of the best bits in the whole MCU. It just is, but like every moment of it, like Groot using his power set, the whole bit of like the cleverness of turning off the gravity outside, like it is. There's nothing better than a misfit team coming together that don't think they have to, and like the way that they come together in this scene is so fun. And then you have the emotional bits of Peter needing to go back for this cassette player. Like, I just feel like the Guardians. I wanted a scene where they all get to show off their stuff. I thought about doing the opening to 2, but I decided to go with this one just because I think the bit with the leg is just one of the funniest things in the entire MCU. And the fact that it repeats itself with the eye, like it's just the perfect, like the James Gunn sensibility is right there. It's all right there.
And it repeats itself with Winter Soldier's arm. Where Rocket, I'm gonna get that arm.
I remember before Infinity War came out, someone joked. Someone on Twitter was like, "I can't wait to see Rocket try to get Winter Soldier's arm."
He goes, "I'm gonna get that arm." I just say, yeah, the Guardians trilogy, man. What a gem! What a wonderful.
The
wonderful
fact that they have
trilogy that
multiple properties like that in the middle of all this shit is crazy. It should not be
like,
possible to have
off on
like
its
Captain
own.
America and everything that happened in that trilogy, and then like to be able to go do that with Guardians at the same time. 2 out of 3 Ant-Man film, like just it's really crazy what they've been able to do.
Uh-huh.
Oh, what a build up. All right, so my number 4 is Avengers Endgame. I Am Iron Man.
Mm.
The second, no, actually the third snap, I should say,
Mm-hmm.
for Tony Stark ending his life and ending Thanos at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, buddy, buddy,
The
buddy.
This is the perfect example of why, although this does not apply to Brave New World, reshoots are not always a bad thing. Because I'm sure, as you know, AC, I'm telling the audience that that bit was shot like only a few months before the movie came out, and it was actually they just had him snap, and the editor on the movie suggested, "Hey, what if he said I'm Iron Man?" So they got Robert Downey Jr. back, put on the fake beard, and had it like he did it like a few months before the movie came out. And so,
Mm.
if there's ever anyone who's like reshoots can sometimes be good.
Yes, they could. Yes,
Okay,
yes.
maybe
And
you know
that
what,
instance,
y'all guys
yes.
are talking me into this Captain America movie with Sam. maybe we don't know what happened on them sets. We don't know.
No.
We gonna have a great time with that one. Let me
AC,
tell
what's
you.
yours? Oh wait, no, that was you, AC, right?
Yeah, that was
Yes,
sorry.
yeah, that
I
was.
interrupted him. Sorry.
No,
I meant to add one quick thing too. The other part of that
Sure.
that's makes that scene like really go hard is that it's like a magic trick where they showed us every element of that magic trick the whole movie,
Uh-huh.
and I wasn't paying attention. And even though I knew like something like this had to happen, I did not know how it happened when it happened. When he had those things on his the gems on his arm, and I was like, when, what, how? And my brain was working in real time as I'm also processing his death, and I'm like, oh, because of the fucking nanite thing they showed us. There's Tony Stark. It's just the goat.
Yeah,
That's why he's the GOAT. The GOAT.
Yeah, I think there's this, you have the lead, you have the scene itself that happens, but I think the thing that really got me was the lead up, because you have Tony staring at Strange, and Strange is like,
For the listeners, AC just held up a 1.
yes, yes, and I just, oh my god, like that I remember Tony had that look like, I know I got to make the sacrifice, and that sells it. So like the audience is already knowing, oh no, this is gonna have to happen for them to win, and then it does, and it's just like, and then you got the aftermath of it, with everybody obviously emotional about it.
Bruh.
And then every time that we could go back to talk about Secret Invasion, we now don't know if James Rhodes was even there at the time.
I mean this in
man.
complete sincerity. I don't even want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it.
Let's not disrespect this moment.
I know. I just wanted to
actually,
throw that in there.
It just makes me upset in a way that like serious things in the world do. Like the
Right?
no, I just don't want to talk about it.
Right. That's the most when I feel like a nerd. When I get mad over some shit where I'm like, this isn't even real. And I'm like, it's real to me,
Like-
damn it.
Like I cannot fucking believe they did that.
Oh my god, yes, but Rod, what is your number?
Okay, my
three?
bad. 3 for me.
Mhm.
Killmonger's death at the end of Black Panther.
Okay, yeah.
When it buried me in the ocean with my ancestors, bro.
Ancestors, yeah.
Hey, that was one of them. Like they let them talk like that in Marvel. I didn't know they was letting Black people write scripts unedited. I thought you ran that through a few Disney people who are like, maybe tone it down on the slavery a little bit. And
this is how when you got Ryan Coogler doing some shit and they let him do this shit.
And
boy.
to this day, that scene is so good. I contend to this day, it's the reason a contingent of well-meaning Black people are like, he was right. Because the scene is written so well and the acting is so good. They're like, what? It's like, well, did you watch the movie? He was gonna kill a bunch of innocent people and shit. And they're like, I mean, but points were made. I'm like, because that's what writing does.
I love points were made.
I think the thing that when I rewatch that scene, the thing that brings me to tears is I think Ludwig's score in that moment is unbelievable.
Yeah,
that like strings bit, and that's why he won the Oscar. I mean, people joke like, "Oh, Black Panther, a white guy won the," but like that score is incredible.
Yes.
And that bit is like a beautiful piece of music, and like that's the thing that I think the MCU can have. Like they have some good themes, but I feel like sometimes their scores are pretty rudimentary. But like that is an emotional, like that's the type of music you hear at the end of like an epic from the 70s, like as the sun sets. And it's just so beautifully staged. I don't know.
And like
God, Coogler fucking.
and like movie wise, it's a movie that's literally the point of the movie is empathy. Like
Yeah.
and just to see something from someone else's perspective, because
Mhm.
it's the one way to like really break down Wakanda is to be like, yeah, sure, Wakanda's a bunch of idealistic shit in people's minds, but if they've been existing like that all this time, having it good, then the thing they were lacking to be a hero as a nation was empathy for all these other people over the world that didn't have this shit while y'all were just over here chilling. And to show like the cost of that, of the coldness of their isolation in making Killmonger essentially, then to
Yeah.
turn his death into like a tragic, like this is what happens when you don't take care of your responsibilities, and that informing T'Challa's decisions along with Nakia at the end of like Wakanda is now globally like black country. Like we are the black nation. We're gonna find the black people and we're gonna just help them anywhere. Fuck the national laws and boundaries. That was such a dope thing to get, and that scene just nails it.
Yeah, and it's the parallels of the beginning of the movie with T'Chaka and what happens with his brother,
Yep.
and then you get this at the end, and it's just like, goddamn, family trouble. Marvel and their family troubles. Let me tell you, family don't get along too well.
A lot of bad dads.
Yeah, a lot of bad dads. That's for sure. That's for sure. Jake, what do you have as your number 3?
The Winter Soldier freeway fight. I mean,
Mm.
there's another example of score really helping. Whatever instrument that is that they play with the Winter Soldier is always great. I think that it's such a great, like the action's so cool. Like starting it off with a dude getting ripped out of a fucking moving vehicle.
Yo.
Because like the thing about it, which I think is so great, is that like a problem that sometimes Marvel movies and big franchise movies can have generally is it's like, all right, we're moving into a fight scene. There's no indication that a fight scene's coming up when that scene starts. He just gets ripped the fuck out. Jasper sit well, more like sit poorly. He's out of the seat. But the and then like I think it kind of got overdone a little bit in Civil War, but I think that the kinetic like speed ramping that they do, I think works really well in this scene, and I think that the moment where Cap sees Bucky, you know that this is what the movie's going to be, because if you're even halfway informed on Marvel, you know that Bucky Barnes is the Winter Soldier, like you know that that's the story they're going to tell, and the thing that gets me about the scene when I go back to it is, and I think is the most disturbing to think about, is like the kind of lack of recognition on Bucky's face. Like Bucky kind of feels something, but like he is simultaneously his best friend, but also a complete stranger. And that I think is like the whole dilemma, because he's not. Because I think one of the things that comes up in Civil War is like Bucky both is the person that he was friends with in Brooklyn, but he's also not, like unequivocally. And that moment where they're staring down at each other and that gets interrupted, I think is just like that's the whole movie. That's why it's such a great, that it's a great espionage thriller. But
T'Challa busting up in there like is this like this wild card or whatever.
Wait,
and
what you're talking about the freeway scene?
Oh, I'm thinking.
Winter Soldier.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking about this.
The roof.
Civil War.
No worries. No worries.
Sorry, they did 2 highway scenes. My bad, guys.
Whoa. That's why I said a free. I think it's technically a freeway. I distinguish them. Yeah. I don't know I forget what the difference is.
Okay.
I live in New York. I don't drive. But I
that's
think
what I didn't pick up on. I thought highway. You said freeway. Sorry about that, guys.
But yeah, I think with that particular scene, it's like once that Sitwell thing happens, the shit just goes like off the rails, but yet it's perfect. It's so perfectly shot, so perfectly done.
Yeah, the fighting choreography is so dope, and most importantly, this, and I love when a Marvel movie does a good job with this because they don't always do it. When you actually make the power sets matter in the fight, like where it's like, no, he has this dope ass arm, and it's a problem. Like you don't want to get hit with this shit. Like I love when they do stuff like that. And like the way they used Bucky's arm throughout that movie and action and fighting scenes was just like the way he blocks with it, the way he like tries to like pin you against a car with it, stuff like that. That takes to another level.
Yeah, and then the super soldier serum itself with Steve, you see what kind of ass kicking he could take. because he has the shield. Also, shout out to the shield because dudes was firing rocket launchers at him, and he was bouncing off a bus and all of this other stuff before we even get to him and Bucky squaring off. Because at first you got Black Widow trying to get involved with Bucky, and that don't go well for her at all. And then you got good old Sam trying to figure out his way as the Falcon without dealing with things. So overall, like that was just you think from top to bottom, just so perfectly done. And the Bucky Steve fight, it's just if you just go watch that minute, it's just like it just goes. And like Jake mentions with the kinetic aspect to it, they're going back and forth and the flipping and all this other shit. Oh my god, it's everything that you will want from an action movie in that type of way. So yeah, I'm glad that we got to show it its proper love for sure. All right, so my number 3, and boy, the top 3 really got hard for me. Number 3 is the first snap by Thanos. And everything that happened after it. Because it's first, it's like you think they give you this little inkling of hope that the Avengers are gonna save the day with Thor, and the you should have gone for the headline, and Thor saying no, and the shit just going white, and you're like, what happened? And then slowly you play into there are so many moments. Like I just remember the theater. I remember people walking out the theater when T'Challa faded away. Black people were so upset. They just rolled out. And then I think Tom Holland's improvised line before he gets faded away. I don't want to go, Mr. Stark. I really don't want to go. Like, dog. Oh my god. Ooh.
That because the thing about it is not to get serious for a second. I remember I once was on a Reddit thread about like people are asking like doctors like what's the worst part of the job, and they said the worst thing is when people are dying and they vocally say they don't want to die. That is the worst part of the job, and that makes that death. And that's the thing. What you realize when you see that scene is that's something you actually don't see in movies that much. People always die with dignity, but in real life people don't. Especially with a teenager. A teenager is not going to die with dignity. He's going to be asking the adult, "Please help me," and that is like it. Really is. It is stark, no pun intended, because like that is not an emotion you see in these movies. Like death is either treated as like a you're a martyr, oh my god, it's so beautiful, or like it's disregarded. It's like no, this is like disturbing and tragic. This is a child who's dying on a foreign planet.
Yeah, and this is after all them Guardians faded away too. Quill, after him making the mistake that he made, or wasn't it really a mistake in retrospect, and with everything that happened, all that stuff.
And I love how it informs Tony for the next movie, because we actually watched Tony go through all 5 stages of grief in that movie. And that part where he's angry is so fucking real, because I could see it from that perspective when he's talking to Steve like the kid died. What do you want from me? Clearly what we were doing does not work. And it was like it made me feel like that is a valid feeling, and I see why you just go to a cabin and go, the bad guy kicked our ass, and that's it. And at the same time, when you get to the end and you realize that once he knows the kid, they may be able to get the kid back somehow, it activates him like in a different way, where it's like, oh no, this Tony Stark is a hero. If it means he has to give up his own life just to bring Peter Parker back, he'd do it. And that's growth for that character.
The symmetry of the beginning of Infinity War, when Thanos is choking out Loki and he goes, "You will never be a god," and then we get to the end after the snap, and Steve Rogers is sitting there, just like broken, saying, "Oh God." And then Thanos just sitting at the end, just chilling at the end of the movie. Buddy, the theater, silence.
I remember walking out of the Regal Union Square, and me and my roommate at the time were going to get pizza, and it just was like the food was I was chewing. Yes. I don't really remember what it tastes like. Just
that was a moment, boy.
And what was the delicious twist of the knife of the Avengers logo turning into dust at the
Mhm.
end credits, like
Yeah.
they had, like we had
Wait.
just watched half of them do.
AC, that was the one where we didn't hear from you, and Jerome and I thought you might have died, right? We thought your heart attack had
Yeah,
died.
it's so funny. Yeah, that like before I went to the theater, it was the Alamo Draft House. I turned my phone
You
off.
gotta. It's the Alamo Draft House. You
Yeah,
gotta.
Yeah,
Alamo.
yeah. I turned my phone off, and then I just decided to not turn it back on until
Wait,
the
can I
next
quickly say
movie.
something? Well, I'm gonna
Yeah.
say. I don't know if y'all see this, guys. Stop taking fucking pictures of the screen. Stop taking your phone out at the movies. This is the one place in society you don't have your phone
Yeah,
out.
it's
Just
terrible,
stop it.
man.
Stop
Oh,
it.
I
This
Stop
didn't
it.
know
yeah,
people were doing that. That's crazy.
it's a
Oh,
terrible.
it's gotten so much
Yeah,
worse.
it's
These
terrible.
fucking Zoomers are not socialized. They think that their Instagram is more important than other people enjoying a movie. Stop it. Anyway,
Jesus.
It's
sorry.
like you go on Twitter and you see all of the screenshots of Wicked, and I'm like, dog, can I get a
Oh,
chance to even go see
that's
the
crazy.
movie?
I
Like,
never
you
even thought
kidding me?
about how they get up there because people be doing that dumb shit. That's whack.
Yeah, fuck these people. Anyway,
But yes,
yes.
yeah, the snap is just like,
I mean,
Jesus
it's
Christ,
the
like, what
most
can you
shocking
say?
thing that Blockbuster's ever done in my lifetime. It's
Yep.
yeah, it's any close.
Oh boy.
It's on
Oh
me.
yes.
Or
Yep.
Yes,
Two.
number 2.
Captain America elevator scene. Anybody want to get
Oh,
out
that's a good
before
one.
we do this? Like that was just such a badass scene. Not a lot of
Mhm.
even dialogue, or any, like you didn't even need the dialogue. It was just so like Steve Rogers. And if you had, I know you can't pick moments from this, but if you had been watching Agents of Shield, this was like a huge nerd boner like payoff of like the characters, the Hydra storyline, and then him in his elevator, and you, if you're just a super nerd, are like, these are the bad guys. And it's the thing that they haven't done with Sam yet that maybe they'll try to do in this next movie. But it was Steve letting you know, like, oh, I'm not a sucker. Like,
Yeah, I'm about that action.
I'm
about that
about
action,
this
boss.
action, and I know what y'all up to. Y'all not. I'm not stuck in here with you. You're stuck in here with me,
Stuck in
and
here
you
with
about
me.
to feel it. So that I love that scene.
Oh man, that's a great scene. That's a great scene.
Yeah.
Everything that kind of leads up to it, like the whole Hydra element. That movie is just that movie is just so good in so many ways, for sure. And so Jake, if you don't have any further thoughts,
Yeah.
what is your number 2?
My number 2 is the reveal of who the Vulture is in Homecoming.
Yes.
I would say through when they get to the Homecoming dance. I think in terms of just like tenseness, it's the most tense scene in the MCU, and I think like it's a scene that would be an incredibly clever reveal if it wasn't in a superhero movie. You know what I mean? Like it's because I think like what it does is it layers the problem that Spider-Man is having, like this is a criminal mastermind, with an experience that we can relate to, is like not knowing how to act around someone's parents, like and like I love when when like they have those things overlap. I think it's obviously a very classic Spider-Man thing, and just the way where you watch Michael Keaton figure it out. The bit, I mean, it's such a like obvious thing, but where they have the green light on his head when he turns back. I just think it is such a well executed scene, and the whole movie hinges on it. And like it's such an obvious thing in hindsight, and I've joked about it before, but like it really is like the trick works because Laura Harrier is mixed, and you would think that they would just give her 2 black parents. Like I mean that's why it works.
Yeah.
Like if I'm being honest with you, if Angourie Rice was playing his love interest, I would think maybe her dad. Like you would maybe think about it, but you're not thinking about it. And I don't know. I think it's such a great scene, and the bit of him, threatening him. I love how dumb the line is of if you do anything, I'll kill you, I'll kill you, I'll kill you dead. I don't know why, but I love how silly that is. Like that's he means it. Like he's not saying something clever. He's like, I'll fucking kill you. You're dead. I'll kill you.
Yes.
Oh my god, I'll kill you and everyone you love. I was like, oh my god.
Woo, that shit sent chills down my spine.
Yeah, that's a good turn, and I think it kind of informs Peter's early, because the movie starts out with Peter just wanting to be involved in the action. He got a taste of what being around the Avengers is like, and then he has to go back to his normal life, and it causes some problems throughout the movie. And then it's like this is the moment where it's like, oh,
this is a world where we've never seen Uncle Ben die. You know what I'm saying? Like they still gave us these moments of like crucial consequences and choices that define Peter's character. without us having to get the cliche Uncle Ben's death teaches me the balance responsibility.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just another example of the Spider-Man trilogy in the MCU just being so incredible in terms of the creative choices and everything that goes along those lines with Peter and his character, and it kind of informs where he currently is now. And yeah, I'm gonna be fascinated to see what the next one has for us. My number two, I did agonize between two and one. Number two, Avengers Assemble.
Hold that thought.
Oh, okay,
Hold that thought
your
for like
one.
2 minutes.
Yeah, 2 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. So with that being said, we have arrived at Rod, your number one. What do you have as your best top 10 MCU scene number one?
On your left, Cap.
Okay, so
Okay,
Yep.
so
so
Yeah.
that's my number one as well.
okay, we can all talk about it.
I mean, I thought about putting, but I would just be dishonest if I put something else here. I think it's just like, I don't know. It is a crowning achievement of cinema that they did it. Like they did it. When they did it.
I remember Age of Ultron at the end. They cut it off.
Mhm.
That was like, oh damn. And then it's like you know they're gonna do it one day. But then what it takes to get there, the Cap alone, everybody down at the moment, Thanos and the army coming up on him, and then on your left, T'Challa come through, everybody come through, portals, just every now and then I'll go listen to that entire score from that scene. Just perfect in so many different ways. And for Avengers Endgame, I just think it's just like such a perfect encapsulation of why we love this stuff.
Even
and why it means
when you
so much
first
to
hear
us.
Sam's voice and it's kind of crackling on the
Yeah.
like walkie talkie or whatever, the left crack, you're like, nah, I know that ain't who I think it is. You know, like they made me believe they pulled that magic trick again. The thing I knew had to happen, we were about to see it, and they had taken us through so many paces. I had kind of given up hope. Like it made me feel like, what? So is there Avengers 3? Like what's after Endgame? You know what I mean? And it's just like bam
Yeah.
on your left, Cap, and you're in every great memory, every warm smile I had in that 10 years came back in a rush. It was just amazing.
Yeah, the culmination of everything. I think you go back and I mean I just think of when we started this show back in 2018, going through all those movies to get to that point.
Yep.
We thought it would just at Infinity War we ain't know what to do with ourselves for a good minute, and then we just kept going, and kind of informs our friendship and everything that comes with it.
Your
and
beard was darker, and my hairline was further up.
So many changes.
Even the line of on your left, Cap being what he said to Sam, you know, when it was like on your left, we was running past them when they were running. Even that is just such a it's like a huge reward for being a nerd and
that's what I was gonna say.
All this shit.
Because there's a lot of discussions whether or not fan service is good or bad, and I think it can be bad. But I think when it's good is when it rewards you for being invested, as opposed to like placating you with little like treats. It's like, no, these are rewarding that you know what he's doing. That like if you don't get it, it's fine. He's saying on your left, it functions as a line. But like if you know what it is, it's rewarding.
When a creative team, as for something as big as this with this much money, gives you a little bit of that, hey, we care as much as you.
Yeah.
Like that's because I think, you know, as an older nerd, AC, you probably can relate to this too. We went through so many times where they just slapped a nerd name on something and they did not care. Like they actively were like, this is stupid. Like the movie basically was like, this thing that you like so much is actually pretty damn stupid. And we're gonna have to change their clothes and their origins and their powers and their names. We're like everything, like, you know, it's someone going, the name Bruce Banner feels a little too gay. Why don't we change it to David or whatever? You're like, what? What does that mean?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like that's like someone in charge somewhere gets to decide that because they don't care. And so to have like 10 years, whether you like the ups and downs or whatever, there's never a point where I felt like they didn't like these people just did not care. It's just like I need to get your nerd money out your wallet. That didn't happen until Secret Invasion. But before that, I never felt like they didn't care. And that moment just lets you know how much they care to say, we're finally going to say it and it's going to make you earn it. And just beautiful.
Yep.
So earned it. And honestly, like it quite frankly, it raises the bar for, Doomsday and Secret Wars. Like, how you going to live up to the Holy Grail?
At this point, the whale has got to distract Kang. That's the only way that they can top it. AC, what's your number one?
So my number one, I've thought about this a lot, and there's something special to me about the conflict of Tony Stark and Steve Rogers.
Yes.
And what had built up from the Avengers movie where they had that scene going back and forth, put on the suit, let's go a few rounds. The Age of Ultron fight where, Tony's like, I need a suit around the world and we gonna lose. And Steve's like, we gonna do this together. And you get to Civil War and there is this, it was building. It was always just building between the two. And this is the perfect thing about having a franchise that is able to do this over a bunch of movies. You now get to the crescendo of where somehow, some way, a villain was able to break up the Avengers without even laying a hand on them because of some foul shit that Steve Rogers did. And the reveal in the scene that Steve knew that Bucky killed Tony's parents, and the hurt that Tony plays, Robert Downey Jr. plays, and this is why, RDJ, dog, that the GOAT level shit right there for me, playing that hurt, and he's like, "Don't bullshit me, Rogers. Did you know?" Like, dog, like this is what we talking about. When we talk about the real right now.
And honestly, this is the real, like, to make another Spurs analogy, this is the it's the system. Like, it's not just you lucked into some good players. Because at that point,
this is Gary Neal hitting shots.
At that point, like, Chris Evans is like
great call,
Manu.
Gary Neal.
You know what I'm saying?
Like, okay, sorry,
like Chris Evans is the dude that we was like, I mean, he all right. You know, like when he first got the job, you're like, he's stepping into it, he's developing, and then by the end, you're like, Chris Evans can sit across the room from Robert Downey Jr. and go blow for fucking blow acting. If you called that when you saw him as Johnny Storm, then you just need to go be on the scout team for the actual Miami Heat. Because so many of us thought that dude was like a good-looking, fun time guy, like maybe a rom-com guy. Like people were not thinking he had chops. And he walked out of the Marvel system where we're like, Hall of Famer Chris Evans, you mean? You will put some respect on his name. And I feel like this scene is one of the ones that goes a long way to be like, that he just passed the master class.
Yep. So that is our top 10s.
Wait a minute. Okay. I'm not done.
Okay.
So I have to say this because the scene itself has so much going on. There is so much going on and so much in its aftermath because you end up getting the stuff from the original Avengers that plays out into like where Friday is telling Tony like, "Yo, you can't beat him, dog. You have no chance." And then he goes analyze the fight patterns. The let's kick his ass was personal. Because we go back to the comment that he made earlier in the movie about like, I would love to punch you in your perfect teeth. Like all that shit had just been building up and bubbling over. And then you get the fight, and Iron Man is kicking the shit out of Cap. He beating the shit out of him. Yeah, he took Bucky out. He beating the shit out of him and whatnot. So then he gets to the end, and then we get my favorite. I could do this all day. Worn out Cap. One more time, I could do this all day. And Tony raises up on him anyway. He gonna kill him. He gonna kill him. and then Bucky intervenes, and then we still get like that. We still get that hurt Tony at the end because like he always got to get the last word in, and he's like, "Yo, my father made that shield. It doesn't belong to you. You don't deserve it." And let me tell you, the aftermath of that scene is the Avengers have never been the same ever since.
Yep.
Not at all.
That line
Through Infinity.
there's a simple line
Yeah,
in
go
there
ahead.
that hits so hard because of Robert Downey Jr.'s delivery. And it's just one of those things where, like, if you wrote it on a sheet of paper, it's like, I want you to say this. It's like, we can't come up with a better line than this. But it's just, I thought we were friends. But his delivery is so earnest that you're like, God damn, that shit hurt me. I was like, he did think they was friends.
I mean, that really, like, thinking about it, the older I get, the wiser I get is debatable. But that's just some bullshit that Cap did. He has some real bullshit.
Oh my god. Oof.
He knew the whole
But yeah.
time, dog. That's crazy. He knew
knew
the whole time. Oh
And
man.
he busy shagging nieces and
Yes.
whatnot, and he's just doing the most.
Oh man.
Oh man.
So that is our list. Now we got a lot. I'm gonna run through the top 10s and we'll just have some brief comments on these scenes.
Yes.
Chris Leeper didn't give it in order, but he has the elevator scene on your left. Thor arriving in Wakanda in Infinity War.
Classic.
The Peter Parker is getting summoned in No Way Home. Thor and Frigga in Endgame. I think that's a scene that I think is underrated. It's a good scene. The jailbreaking Guardians 1. The end scene in Wakanda Forever where we meet T'Challa's son.
Man. Tearjerker.
The opening credits of Black Widow. Thankfully, I'm not the only one who loves those. In the beginning of Loki, the original interrogation scene. That's basically the whole episode.
Classic stuff.
And then the I'ma get you all the cheeseburgers you want.
Man.
Montel in order number 10. Let Thanos. I'm gonna read this verbatim. Okay. Number 10. Let Thanos have his fun. Parentheses. AKA Thanos beating Hulk like he whistled at a white woman.
Yeah. I had that on my list of honorable mentions. So, yep, that was a beast.
Mine, yeah.
9. Baby Groot dancing. 8. Shang-Chi versus Wenwu. 7. Spider-Man complimenting Spider-Man. Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good. Rocket's near-death experience. The highway fight. From X-Men 97, Magneto, please don't make me let you down.
Bro, I didn't even count that.
Good.
Yeah. Yep. Ramonda's speech from Black Panther 2. Some great acting.
Oh boy, Angela.
And then on your left, Yetis was number 10. This is for you, AC. Howard Stark with the hashtag washed agenda finger handshake on Tony.
That's good.
Thor's reaction to Cap making the hammer budge. Return of Peter Parker. T'Challa's death sequence. Death of Gambit in X-Men 97. What is grief not love persevering? Captain Marvel arrives / girl power calls the hook and ladder play with the gauntlet. I don't care. Get help and Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good. Now Lexus gave some great commentary with hers. Elevator scene and Winter Soldier. I don't know how 20 grown-ass men stuffed in an elevator get packed up by one man in a sneak attack, but they should be ashamed. Tony Stark drunkenly showing his ass at his birthday and party in Iron Man, leading to him getting whipped and having his suit stolen by Don Cheadle. Parentheses, I'm jet lagged and can't remember War Machine's name. The entire fight in Endgame. Grief lovers persevering. Shang-Chi bus fight, the best scene post Endgame. Simu and Aquafina had great chemistry. They are the same amount of insufferable IRL, so that tracks.
They really did, though.
Monica Rambeau getting her powers in WandaVision. That's Mariana's favorite scene, also. She-Hulk and flirting with Matt Murdock. She-Hulk in court beefing with her ex Taylor. T'Challa whipping Bucky Barnes up and down the steps of the UN or wherever they were in Civil War. T'Challa was wearing slacks and a crew neck sweater for the ass whooping. It was great. And then number 1, the Dora Milaje beating the dog shit out of John Walker and his handsome black friend that killed off for no reason.
Salute.
Underrated.
Stefan, suit in a case. Wenwu's orange monologue. Tony taking Peter's Spider-Man suit away. That was an honorable mention for me.
Same.
Iron Man versus Thanos in Infinity War. Thanos going home to be a family man. Avengers Assemble. Is this your king? That's classic. Steve Rogers in the elevator. Spider-Man versus Green Goblin, the Statue of Liberty, and then the Avengers in the New York. Then Stewart, the bus scene in Shang-Chi. Loki, Sylvie, and Kang. Black Panther museum scene. I mean, that's just a very cathartic scene. The heroes return. Tony Stark's funeral. Other Spider-Man appear. Elevator fight. Avengers Assemble. Yada yada. Then Thor Ragnarok, strongest Avenger. And
Yo.
then
Good scene.
Caleb
Good
only
scene.
gave 3, and he gave when Steve Rogers first appears in Infinity War, when Thor enters Wakanda in Infinity War, and Avengers Assemble in Endgame. So
People love
those,
that
so
beard,
a
man.
lot of repeats, but also some fun ones. And honestly,
Yeah.
I wish that they all had commentary like Lexus's. Those are the best.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. You just remember. This is a good reminder, that, like, this entire episode of how amazing this franchise truly is, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
On so many levels.
Now, can I
Just
run through my honorable mentions fast?
Of course.
The way Jake
Oh
just
yeah,
did?
yeah, knock it out.
All right.
Yeah, of course.
Ant-Man versus Falcon in Ant-Man, just because it made
Classic.
the universe feel
Fun.
lived in. Because it's like,
Yep.
oh, they can do this in Ant-Man.
Yeah.
The Civil War highway fight, which not to be confused with the Winter Soldier freeway fight, but that highway fight, the weight on the action is something that the Russos are so much better at than everybody. Meaning, like, it feels like they're running down the highway for real. Like there's friction and weight to that. Cap versus Tony in Avengers 1, and they don't actually fight, but it's when when Cap tells him, put on the suit. I was like, that's Steve Rogers.
The tension.
I look like Leonardo DiCaprio in that gif where he leans forward and points at the screen.
Yeah.
I was like, that's Steve Rogers. You fucking did it. I didn't know that Jake was gonna wear that same sweater that Leo wore in that scene.
Hey, I mean, it's what you wear when you make a guest appearance on Bounty Law. It's what you have to wear.
The Ancient One disembodying Banner, like from the Hulk, like that just iconic imagery, and also like she's a beast. Thor seeing Hulk in Ragnarok. I almost hate that it was in the trailer. Because it was so fucking cool in the theater. And I was like, what if we didn't know that? That's the reason it didn't make my top 10.
That would have been crazy.
Better if we would have found out in the theater. Green Goblin turning evil, and Peter's spider sense realizing that he was evil before Peter realizes he's evil. Like Peter's like, nah, something's up. And it's like, oh, spider sense could be so cool. The first time we fly into Wakanda, this never.
Oh yeah.
God damn. And so many films have actually copied this since this. Like Aquaman, like there's so many, almost every.
You know what honestly copies it? The fucking new Christmas movie Red One does the same thing.
Yes, you saw it too, bro.
Yes, I did. Unfortunately,
that joint been. I know.
God bless,
bro. I know. But that joint been aped so many times at this point. The Shang-Chi meet cute. When the Mandarin is like he gets to the Sacred City and it's like half sex, half kung fu.
I'll be honest with you, that might be the closest. Like, obviously there is quote unquote a sex scene in Eternals. Yeah, but that's a sex scene. What happens?
I was watching kung fu. Like, am I aroused?
Like, should I leave? Can we guys leave you guys alone?
Right. Excuse me. And then the last one is Guardians of the Galaxy 3. The Beastie Boys scene. It's a montage in the third act. Just, I think it's like the Brook, like whatever. Last stop.
It's No Sleep Till Brooklyn.
No Sleep Till Brooklyn.
No Sleep Till Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Dog, such a weird choice for it, but it's also perfect choice for it. And just, I mean, those CGI people, they must have like made them sleep there because that joint looked great.
Yeah. It's having watched a breakdown of it. One of the things about it, just James Gunn's just he's a good director, so he's better at doing this. That like it was so planned ahead of time, and like you can just tell, like when you watch like the breakdown of how that's done, it's like, oh, they knew what everything was going to look like before they started shooting. And then when you look at the movies that aren't as good, it's like we want to give ourselves options. Okay, if you insist, if you want to look like dog shit,
one of the options is to be terrible.
Yeah.
I just want to say like. Just a couple of honorable mentions. The Thanos Hulk beatdown was great. I think a really, really powerful scene is Andrew's Peter catching MJ.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus. Like, dog.
That was an honorable mention for me.
Tears.
Bruh, and like Peter Parker giving up MJ to end that movie is just fucking.
Oh my god!
My guy. Oh, that hurt. That joint hurt.
Yeah.
the look on his face. Tom Holland is the GOAT for that because the look on his face, how he plays it, he's so crestfallen, but he's like, you know what?
It's like,
Let me
Bruh,
do the right thing
that's the
here.
if I
first
ever
time that like if those three movies are really just the origin story of like what like they didn't kill Uncle Ben until that scene. That's the scene where I was like, that's what it means to be Spider-Man. It fucking
Yeah.
sucks.
Just like, yeah, and now he alone in alone in an apartment and nobody
Bruh.
knows who he is.
drowning his sorrows in non-alcoholic beer.
Ugh.
Oh man. And you know what? Honorable mention, I have to throw this one in there. I the way the way that Wolverine rips into Deadpool in that car, where
Yo.
he just goes off on him for a minute to the point where Deadpool ain't got shit to say, but I want to fight you now. Because Hugh Jackman's face turns red the way that he just like that is an acting clinic right there.
Dog.
Oh man,
Why
I'm
is
so
he able to be that good in that suit in that movie? Why is he
it's
able?
incredible.
That's an actor, dog. I don't. That's what the
Yeah.
MCU gonna always have, man. Because he wasn't even in the MCU originally casted, and it felt like he took it up a
No.
notch once he got here. Like, I brought it all with me, guys. Don't worry.
Till he's 90. Till he's 90, man. Oh my gosh. Jake, you have anything else you want to say? You good? All
I'm
right.
good. But we went a long time, so it's
Yeah,
got a
let's
lot of
wrap
good
this
Yes.
stuff.
up. Jake's got to get out
Yes,
of here.
absolutely.
Yeah.
This is this was wonderful. Appreciate everybody for sending in their lists and all of those things. Yes, with that being said, Rod, where can we find
The
you, my
Black
friend?
Guy Who
Thank you for joining
Tips.
us.
The Black Guy Who Tips is the podcast. Search it. TheBlackGuyWhoTips.com is a website. And follow me on X or I guess Blue Sky now. Rodimus Prime. That's it.
Yes, and Jake, how about you, sir?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at the Jake Christie, but I'm mostly on Blue Sky at just Jake Christie. Mostly just because like it doesn't suck as much, and it's really like over the past 2 weeks, it's gotten to the point where it's like, oh, every post has racist people under it, every single one.
Yeah, it's a tough thing. Like you can follow me on Twitter currently. I've been on there less. I've come back a little bit because of this Drake Kendrick thing. That's been a lot of fun
Yeah.
over the weekend. So Anthony Canton _3. You can follow me at Anthony Canton 3 on Blue Sky if you're looking for me there. So the show, same thing at MC University Pod on all platforms. Follow us on IG. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Yeah, we try to get to that 300 mark. So if you hear this, try and hit that button, hit that like, hit the comment. Let us know what you thought about this in terms of like your own list and things along those lines. Mention the Patreon at the top, and just want to wish everybody a happy holiday. I will just quickly say, very thankful for not only you guys but our community and how wonderful everybody's been, and just in the time where the world is not so great, it's great to know that there are good people in this world that you can talk to on a semi-regular basis and have a good time with. And appreciate everybody for listening and supporting us in the meantime. So with that being said, for Rod and Jake, I'm Anthony Canton III. This has been Marvel Cinematic University. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll talk to you next time.